Recording. Yeah, great to have you guys here with me. So let me go ahead and share my screen. And we are on A Course in Miracles, Chapter 14, The Light of Communication. The journey that we undertake together is the exchange of dark for light, of ignorance for understanding. Nothing you understand is fearful. It is only in darkness and in ignorance that you perceive the frightening and shrink away from it to further darkness. And yet, it is only the hidden that can terrify, not for what it is, but for its hiddenness. The obscure is frightening because you do not understand its meaning. If you did, it would be clear and you would be no longer in the dark. Nothing has hidden value, for what is hidden cannot be shared, and so its value is unknown. The hidden is kept apart, but value always lies in joint appreciation. What is concealed cannot be loved, and so it must be feared. In quiet light, the quiet light in which the Holy Spirit dwells within you is merely perfect openness, in which nothing is hidden and therefore nothing is fearful. Attack will always yield to love if it is brought to love, not hidden from it. There is no darkness that the light of love will not dispel, unless it is concealed from love's beneficence. What is kept apart from love cannot share its healing power because it has been separated off and kept in darkness. The sentinels of darkness watch over it carefully. And you, who made these guardians of illusion out of nothing, are now afraid of them. Would you continue to give imagined power to these strange ideas of safety? They're neither safe nor unsafe. They do not protect. Neither do they attack. They do nothing at all, being nothing at all. As guardians of darkness and of ignorance, look to them only for fear. For what they keep obscure is fearful. But let them go, and what was fearful will be so no longer. Without protection of obscurity, only the light of love remains, for only this has meaning and can live in light. Everything else must disappear. Death yields to life simply because destruction is not true. The light of guiltlessness shines guilt away, because when they are brought together, the truth of one must make the falsity of its opposite perfectly clear. Keep not guilt and guiltlessness apart, for your belief that you can have them both is meaningless. All you have done by keeping them apart is lose their meaning by confusing them with each other. And so you do not realize that only one means anything. The other is wholly without sense of any kind. You have regarded the separation as a means for breaking your communication with your Father. The Holy Spirit reinterprets it as a means of reestablishing what was not broken, but has been made obscure. All things you made have use to him for his most holy purpose. He knows you're not separate from God, but he perceives much in your mind that lets you think you are. All this and nothing else would he separate from you. The power of decision which you made in place of the power of creation, he would teach you how to use on your behalf. You who made it to crucify yourself must learn of him how to apply it to the holy cause of restoration. You who speak in dark and devious symbols do not understand the language you have made. It has no meaning, for its purpose is not communication, but rather the disruption of communication. If the purpose of language is communication, how can this tongue mean anything? Yet even this strange and twisted effort to communicate through not communicating holds enough of love to make it meaningful, if its interpreter is not its maker. You who made it are but expressing conflict from which the Holy Spirit would release you. Leave what you would communicate to him. He will interpret it to you with perfect clarity, for he knows with whom you are in perfect communication. You know not what you say, and so you know not what is said to you. Yet your interpreter perceives the meaning in your alien language. He will not attempt to communicate the meaningless, but he will separate out all that has meaning, dropping off the rest and offering your true communication to those who would communicate as truly with you. You speak two languages at once, and this must lead to unintelligibility. Yet, if one means nothing and the other everything, only that one is possible for purposes of communication. The other but interferes with it. The Holy Spirit's function is entirely communication. He therefore must remove whatever interferes with communication in order to restore it. Therefore, keep no source of interference from his sight, for he will not attack your sentinels, but bring them to him, and let his gentleness teach you that in the light they are not fearful, and cannot serve to guard the dark doors, behind which nothing at all is carefully concealed. We must open all doors and let the light come streaming through. There are no hidden chambers in God's temple. Its gates are open wide to greet his Son. No one can fail to come where God has called him, if he close not the door himself upon his Father's welcome. That was a good one. Hi, Cynthia. Thank you for joining us. Good to see you today. So yeah, we were kind of touching on this, right? In our earlier communication about giving everything to the Holy Spirit to interpret, right? Because we think we can do it and figure it out, but we really can't.
Terry, tell me again which chapter was. There was something that struck something with me, but I got to go back and look at it.
Okay, chapter 14, section 6, page 285 in my book.
Okay, great.
The
Thank
light
you.
of communication.
All right. Let me see what I can find here.
Mhm. Yeah, it's so important to remember, just to let go, let God, to allow the interpretation not to come from your ego, because your ego is already aligned. When you align with your ego, you're already aligning with fear.
I think he's asking us here to also shine a light, like witness our ego, like not deny it, but look at it and let the Holy Spirit interpret what's going on. Know that we don't know what's going on. Holy Spirit does. It's all for our healing.
Right.
And if we can just let that happen, that's where we need do nothing.
Yes. Yeah.
The healing will happen spontaneously of its own accord if we just don't judge it.
Mm-hmm.
Let go of our preferences of liking and not liking, or wanting something to be a certain way. Just accept what is as it is, and just have faith and trust then that it's all helpful. It's all going to be for my good.
Absolutely. Great reminder. Thank you. Pam, for making that very clear.
So my question, Terry, was in paragraph 6 about communication. You who speak in dark and devious symbols, I'm assuming that's like attack thoughts, do not understand the language you've made. It has no meaning, for its purpose is not communication, but rather disruption of communication. Okay, that makes sense. If the purpose of language is communication, how can this tongue mean anything? Yet even this strange and twisted effort to communicate through not communicating holds enough of love to make it meaningful if its interpreter is not its maker.
Mm-hmm.
I am not sure I know what that means or how to tease that out so that I get it.
So interpreter is capitalized, right?
Right.
So it's saying again, if you give it to the Holy Spirit and allow the Holy Spirit to interpret it, as long as its interpreter is not its maker, we would be its maker, right? Because the ego would be making.
Okay, that makes more sense.
And when
I see
you,
a big eye now.
yeah, if you give it to the interpreter, then even this strange and twisted effort to communicate through not communicating holds enough love to make it meaningful to its interpreter. So it's basically saying God, Holy Spirit can use whatever we make,
Okay.
right? And it can help us to they can use it for good, right? If we allow it to be interpreted.
Gotcha. Yeah.
I think that's really beautiful that there is no lack of love. Even in our ugliest, darkest, there's still no lack of love ever.
Right, right. Yeah. Yeah, because people do things for a different reason, and usually it's because they're afraid, right? They're afraid, they're fearful. This is what they think they need to do to protect themselves and their loved ones because they love them, they want to protect them, but they're acting in a fearful way. So the Holy Spirit can reinterpret that and allow us to see that it was actually done, out of love, but in a fearful way. Oh, so now Cynthia's getting her big kitty in her face. I had mine up on my shoulder a minute ago.
I'm sorry, it can be very distracting.
That's okay. No, it's beautiful. Beautiful. Love our kitties.
So that's a call for love.
That's right. You just come right in like, give me some love. All right. Any other thoughts, comments, shares? All right, let's keep going and see what happens next. Sharing perception with the Holy Spirit. What do you want? Light or darkness?
Really want.
Knowledge or ignorance are yours, but not both. Opposites must be brought together, not kept apart. For their separation is only in your mind, and they are reconciled by union, as you are. In union, everything that is not real must disappear, for truth is union. As darkness disappears in light, so ignorance fades away when knowledge dawns. Perception is the medium by which ignorance is brought to knowledge. Yet the perception must be without deceit, for otherwise it becomes the messenger of ignorance rather than a helper in the search for truth. The search for truth is but the honest searching out of everything that interferes with truth. Truth is. It can neither be lost, nor sought, nor found. It is there, wherever you are, being within you. Yet it can be recognized or unrecognized, real or false to you. If you hide it, it becomes unreal to you because you hid it and surrounded it with fear. Under each cornerstone of fear on which you have erected your insane system of belief, the truth lies hidden. Yet you cannot know this, for by hiding truth in fear, you see no reason to believe that the more you look at fear, the less you see it, and the clearer what it conceals becomes. It is not possible to convince the unknowing that they know. From their point of view, it's not true. Yet it is true because God knows it. These are clearly opposite viewpoints on what the unknowing are. To God, unknowing is impossible. It is therefore not a point of view at all, but merely a belief in something that does not exist. It is only this belief that the unknowing have, and by it, they are wrong about themselves. They have defined themselves as they were not created. Their creation was not a point of view, but rather a certainty. Uncertainty brought to certainty does not retain any conviction of reality. Our emphasis has been on bringing what is undesirable to the desirable, what you do not want to what you do. You will realize that salvation must come to you this way if you consider what dissociation is. Dissociation is a distorted process of thinking whereby two systems of belief which cannot coexist are both maintained. If they are brought together, their joint acceptance becomes impossible. But if one is kept in darkness from the other, their separation seems to keep them both alive and equal in their reality. Their joining thus becomes the source of fear, for if they meet, acceptance must be withdrawn from one of them. You cannot have them both, for each denies the other. Apart, this fact is lost from sight, for each in a separate place can be endowed with firm belief. Bringing them together and the fact that their complete incompatibility is instantly apparent. One will go because the other is seen in the same place. Light cannot enter darkness when a mind believes in darkness and will not let it go. Truth does not struggle against ignorance, and love does not attack fear. What needs no protection does not defend itself. Defense is of your making. God knows it not. The Holy Spirit uses defenses on behalf of truth only because you made them against it. His perception of them, according to his purpose, merely changes them into a call for what you have attacked with them. Defenses, like everything you made, must be gently turned to your own good, translated by the Holy Spirit from means of self-destruction to means of preservation and release. His task is mighty, but the power of God is with him. Therefore, to him, it is so easy that it was accomplished the instant it was given him for you. Do not delay in your return to peace by wondering how he can fulfill what God has given him to do. Leave that to him who knows. You are not asked to do mighty tasks yourself. You're merely asked to do the little he suggests you do, trusting him only to the small extent of believing that if he asks it, you can do it. You will see how easily all that he asks can be accomplished. The Holy Spirit asks of you but this: bring him every secret you have locked away from him. Open every door to him and bid him enter the darkness and lighten it away. At your request, he gladly enters. He brings the light to darkness if you make the darkness open to him. But what you hide, he cannot look upon. He sees for you, and unless you look with him, he cannot see. The vision of Christ is not for him alone, but for him with you. Bring therefore all your dark and secret thoughts to him, and look upon them with him. He holds the light, and you the darkness. They cannot coexist when both of you together look on them. His judgment must prevail, and he will give it to you as you join your perception to his. Joining with him in seeing is the way in which you learn to share with him the interpretation of perception that leads to knowledge. You cannot see alone. Sharing perception with him, whom God has given you, teaches you how to recognize what you see. It is a recognition that nothing you see means anything alone. Seeing with him will show you that all meaning, including yours, comes not from double vision, but from the gentle fusing of everything into one meaning, one emotion, and one purpose. God has one purpose, which he shares with you. The single vision, which the Holy Spirit offers you, will bring this oneness to your mind with clarity and brightness so intense you could not wish for all the world not to accept what God would have you have. Behold your will, accepting it as his, with all his love as yours. All honor to you through him, and through him unto God. Simple, maybe not always easy. I was imagining sitting with a pen and paper and journaling, and the ink in the pen would be the darkness, and the light would be God or the Holy Spirit or the one mind of God that we all share. And I was imagining writing all my darkest fears on a piece of paper in a journal with the dark ink of the pen and thinking that's how I would share the darkness with the light and let the light shine it away so then it could become one.
It's a great analogy.
Yeah, because it says, hold no secrets, keep nothing from him. All the secrets of our fears, all of our fearful secrets, right? Just take a pen and write them all down, get them all out and shine a light on them as you're doing it, because you have to, right? Can't see without writing them. And then imagine just the alchemy of that, right? Of changing it all and bringing them both together so that there can only be one meaning.
I wasn't thinking of having to write it down to actually see it with my eyes. Of
Right.
course, that's helpful, but boy, but if we're constantly being vigilant, who has time for that? You know?
Right.
I guess I'm asking a question. It can also just be in the mind, right? Just kind of, okay, let that one go, let that one go. Don't judge that.
Sure. Sure. Yeah.
As a way of bringing the light to it.
Yeah, because we have 60,000 thoughts. And like you said, you're not going to write down 60,000 thoughts a day. That would be absurd. Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
But as an exercise, whatever way we do choose to shine a light on it, that's what we're asked to do.
Right.
Bring it to the light.
Bring it to the light. Yeah. Yeah, exactly. Sorry about the tail. Keeps popping up on the screen here. Anybody have any thoughts about this? All right, shall we keep going? All right, let's get to the next section, which is, ooh, the holy meeting place. In the darkness, you have obscured the glory God gave you and the power he bestowed upon his guiltless son. All this lies hidden in every darkened place, shrouded in guilt and in the dark denial of innocence. Behind the dark doors you have closed lies nothing, because nothing can obscure the gift of God. It is the closing of the doors that interferes with recognition of the power of God that shines in you. Banish not from your mind, banish not power from your mind, but let all that would hide your glory be brought to the judgment of the Holy Spirit, and they're undone. Whom he would save for glory is saved for it. He has promised the Father that through him you would be released from littleness to glory. To what he promised God, he is wholly faithful, for he shares with God the promise that was given him to share with you. He shares it still for you. Everything that promises otherwise, great or small, however much or little valued, he will replace with the one promise given unto him to lay upon the altar to your Father and his Son. No altar stands to God without his Son, and nothing brought there that is not equally worthy of both, but will be replaced by gifts wholly acceptable to Father and to Son. Can you offer guilt to God? You cannot then offer it to his Son, for they are not apart, and gifts to one are offered to the other. You know not God because you know not this, and yet you do know God and also this. All this is safe within you, where the Holy Spirit shines. He shines not in division, but in the meeting place where God, united with his Son, speaks to his Son through him. Communication between what cannot be divided cannot cease. The holy meeting place of the unseparated Father and his Son lies in the Holy Spirit and in you. All interference in the communication that God himself wills with his Son is quite impossible here. Unbroken and uninterrupted love flows constantly between the Father and the Son, as both would have it be. And so it is. Let your mind wander not through darkened corridors, away from light's center. You and your brother may choose to lead yourselves astray, but you can be brought together only by the guide appointed for you. He will surely lead you to where God and his Son await your recognition. They are joined in giving you the gift of oneness, before which all separation vanishes. Unite with what you are. You cannot join with anything except reality. God's glory and his Son's belong to you in truth. They have no opposite, and nothing else can you bestow upon yourself. There is no substitute for truth, and truth will make this plain to you as you are brought into the place where you must meet with truth. And there you must be led through gentle understanding, which can lead you nowhere else. Where God is, there are you. Such is the truth. Nothing can change the knowledge given you by God into unknowingness. Everything God created knows its creator. For this is how creation is accomplished by the Creator and by his creations. In the holy meeting place are joined the Father and his creations, and the creations of his Son with them together. There's one link that joins them all together, holding them in the oneness out of which creation happens. The link with which the Father joins himself to those he gives the power to create can never be dissolved. Heaven itself is union with all creation and with its one creator. And heaven remains the will of God for you. Lay no gifts other than this upon your altars, for nothing can coexist with it. Here your little offerings are brought together with the gift of God, and only what is worthy of the Father will be accepted by the Son, for whom it is intended. To whom God gives himself, he is given. Your little gifts will vanish on the altar, where he has placed his own. That's a good reminder. Any thoughts? Any comments? Did it spark any lights?
In 4, there's the sentence 4, where God is, there you are. Kind of reminds me of no matter where you go, there you are.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
It's a nice reminder. Nothing can change the knowledge given you by God into unknowingness. It's the same thing with it's up in paragraph 2. All interference in the communication that God himself wills with his son is quite impossible here. Unbroken and uninterrupted love flows constantly between the Father and the Son as both would have it be. And so it is. That's such a nice reminder.
Mm-hmm.
And every time I read something like that and it strikes me like, what a great reminder. Then I always wonder, why don't I remember that all the time?
Right. Yeah. In paragraph 2, it kind of stuck out when it said, paragraph 2, sentence 5, can you offer guilt to God? You cannot then offer it to his son, for they are not apart, and gifts to one are offered to the other. You know not God because you know not this. And anytime you like think of your brother, right? Let's think of a relationship you have, and you think of them as guilty, right? Well, they're guilty of this. They shouldn't have done that. They're, you condemn them or judge them for whatever in your mind you think they've done wrong to you or to society or whatever the situation might be, right? And you're saying that God is guilty, right? Because to know your brother as yourself or as God is to know the truth about your brother. But anytime you separate your brother out into like the bad person, right? Or judging, then you can't know God because you don't know that God is your brother and God is yourself, right?
Nothing really happens when we do that.
Right.
We think something's happening, but in reality, nothing's really happening.
Right. Yeah.
We can't affect reality by what we think or do.
Yeah. We can just obscure the truth from our mind by hiding it.
Right.
All right. Any other thoughts or should we keep going? We'll keep on trucking. Right. The reflection of holiness. The at-one-ment does not make holy. You were created holy. It merely brings unholiness to holiness, or what you made to what you are. Bringing illusions to truth or the ego to God is the Holy Spirit's only function. Keep not your making from your Father, for hiding it has cost you knowledge of him and of yourself. The knowledge is safe, but where is your safety apart from it? The making of time to take the place of timelessness lay in the decision to be not as you are. Thus, truth was made past, and the present was dedicated to illusion. And the past too was changed and interposed between what always was and now. The past that you remember never was, and represents only the denial of what always was. Bringing the ego to God is but to bring error to truth, where it stands corrected, because it is the opposite of what it meets. It is undone because the contradiction can no longer stand. How long can contradiction stand when its impossible nature is clearly revealed? What disappears in light is not attacked. it merely vanishes because it's not true. Different realities are meaningless, for reality must be one. It cannot change with time or mood or chance. Its changelessness is what makes it real. This cannot be undone. Undoing is for unreality. And this reality will do for you. Merely by being what it is, does truth release you from everything that it is not. That one-ment is so gentle, you need but whisper to it, and all its power will rush to your assistance and support. You're not frail with God beside you, yet without him, you are nothing. The at-one-ment offers you God, and the gift that you refused is held by him in you. The Holy Spirit holds it there for you. God has not left his altar. Though his worshipers placed other gods upon it, the temple still is holy, for the presence that dwells within it is holiness. In the temple, holiness waits quietly for the return of them that love it. The presence knows they will return to purity and to grace. The graciousness of God will take them gently in and cover all their sense of pain and loss with the immortal assurance of their Father's love. There, fear of death will be replaced with joy of life. For God is life, and they abide in life. Life is as holy as the holiness by which it was created. The presence of holiness lives in everything that lives, for holiness created life and leaves not what it created holy as itself. In this world, you can become a spotless mirror in which the holiness of your Creator shines forth from you to all around you. You can reflect heaven here, yet no reflections of the images of other gods must dim the mirror that would hold God's reflection in it. Earth can reflect heaven or hell, God or the ego. You need but leave the mirror clean and clear of all the images of hidden darkness you have drawn upon it. God will shine upon it of himself. Only the clear reflection of himself can be perceived upon it. Reflections are seen in light. In darkness, they are obscure, and their meaning seems to lie only in shifting interpretations rather than in themselves. The reflection of God needs no interpretation. It is clear. Clean but the mirror, and the message that shines forth from what the mirror holds out for everyone to see, no one can fail to understand. It is the message that the Holy Spirit is holding to the mirror that is in him. He recognizes it because he has been taught his need for it, but knows not where to look to find it. Let him then see it in you and share it with you. Could you but realize for a single instant the power of healing that the reflection of God shining in you can bring to all the world, you could not wait to make the mirror of your mind clean to receive the image of the holiness that heals the world. The image of holiness that shines in your mind is not obscure and will not change. Its meaning to those who look upon it is not obscure, for everyone perceives it as the same. All bring their different problems to its healing light, and all their problems find but healing there. The response of holiness to any form of error is always the same. There is no contradiction in what holiness calls forth. Its one response is healing, without regard for what is brought to it. Those who have learned to offer only healing because of the reflection of holiness in them are ready at last for heaven. Their holiness is not a reflection, but rather the actual condition of what was but reflected to them here. God is no image, and his creations, as part of him, hold him in them in truth. They do not merely reflect truth, for they are truth. There were some beautiful parts in there too.
Well,
Paragraph 7 on 292, that first sentence. Could you but realize for a single instant the power of healing that the reflection of God shining in you can bring to all the world, you could not wait to make the mirror of your mind clean, to receive the image of the holiness that heals the world. And just what that made me think of is, when we want only that, that's what we get.
Right. But we get so caught up in the doing. We get so caught up in the fixing. We get so caught up in aligning with our ego to make that happen that we forget we need do nothing but clean the mirror. That's it.
Right.
Yeah.
And cleaning the mirror to me means just looking at my split mind and knowing when it's my wrong mind or my right mind, but without judgment, like having already that willingness. Okay, clean this up, please, for me. I can't do it. You can. My job is just to look at it, bring it to you.
Right. Bring it to the light.
Yeah.
That's it. Absolutely. Yeah, that also stuck out for me. So I'm glad you reread that, Pam. Very powerful. Any other thoughts from anyone else, or should we continue?
I see that I had underlined the last 3 words of that sentence, that heals the world. I mean, wow.
I mean, it's so funny that when you just said that, you said, I mean, wow, but then I'm thinking, what is the world?
illusion.
Right? I mean, I am all there is, right? So if I am everything and I am God and I am all my brothers and I am the world, then clearly if I clear that mirror, it will heal all the world because I am all the world. Right? We think of it as this big giant thing, but really it's just this.
Just?
Yeah, not just, right? And that goes back to the glory of God, right? That we don't allow ourselves to know ourselves as the glory and the grandeur of God because we're like, oh, I can't be that. I can't be that. That's too big. Like I have to be more humble than that. But in shying away from that, we don't allow the healing of the world, right?
Yeah. Somewhere in here it says, when we do that, when we shine the light on, 1,000 minds are healed. I don't know if that's the exact number or wording,
Yeah.
but that's what I remember, that it heal the world, but let's just start with 1,000 minds. That's a lot right there.
Yeah,
They're all one.
that's right.
Yeah.
Right. Any thoughts before we keep going? Any more talk? All right, let's keep going. This next one's a little bit long, but I think we can get it in there and have time for discussion. The equality of miracles. When no perception stands between God and his creations, or between his children and their own, the knowledge of creation must continue forever. The reflections you accept into the mirror of your mind in time but bring eternity nearer or farther. But eternity itself is beyond all time. Reach out of time and touch it with the help of its reflection in you, and you will turn from time to holiness, as surely as the reflection of holiness calls everyone to lay all guilt aside. Reflect the peace of heaven here and bring this world to heaven. For the reflection of truth draws everyone to truth, and as they enter into it, they leave all reflections behind. In heaven, reality is shared and not reflected. By sharing its reflection here, its truth becomes the only perception the Son of God accepts. And thus remembrance of his Father dawns on him, and he can no longer be satisfied with anything but his own reality. You on earth have no conception of limitlessness, for the world you seem to live in is a world of limits. In this world, it is not true that anything without order of difficulty can occur. The miracle, therefore, has a unique function and is motivated by a unique teacher who brings the laws of another world to this one. The miracle is the one thing you can do that transcends order, being based not on differences, but on equality. Miracles are not in competition, and the number of them that you can do is limitless. They can be simultaneous and legion. This is not difficult to understand once you conceive of them as possible at all. What is more difficult to grasp is the lack of order of difficulty that stamps the miracle as something that must come from elsewhere, not from here. From the world's viewpoint, this is impossible. Perhaps you've been aware of lack of competition among your thoughts, which even though they may conflict, can occur together and in great numbers. You may indeed be so used to this that it causes you little surprise. Yet you're also used to classifying some of your thoughts as more important, larger, or better, wiser, or more productive and valuable than others. This is true of the thoughts that cross the mind of those who think they live apart. For some are reflections of heaven, while others are motivated by the ego, which but seems to think. The result is a weaving, changing pattern that never rests and is never still. It shifts unceasingly across the mirror of your mind, and the reflections of heaven last but a moment and then grow dim as darkness blots them out. Where there was light, darkness removes it in an instant, and alternating patterns of light and darkness sweep constantly across your mind. The little sanity that still remains is held together by a sense of order that you establish. Yet the very fact that you can do this and bring any order into chaos shows you that you are not an ego, and that more than an ego must be in you. But the ego is chaos. And if it were all of you, no order at all would be possible. Yet, though the order you impose upon your mind limits the ego, it also limits you. To order is to judge, and to arrange by judgment. Therefore, it is not your function, but the Holy Spirit's. It will seem difficult for you to learn that you have no basis at all for ordering your thoughts. This lesson the Holy Spirit teaches by giving you the shining examples of miracles to show you that your way of ordering is wrong, but that a better way is offered you. The miracle offers exactly the same response to every call for help. It does not judge the call. It merely recognizes what it is and answers accordingly. It does not consider which call is louder or greater or more important. You may wonder how you, who are still bound to judgment, can be asked to do that which requires no judgment of your own. Well, the answer is very simple. The power of God, and not of you, engenders miracles. The miracle itself is but the witness that you have the power of God in you. That is the reason why the miracle gives equal blessing to all who share in it. And that is also why everyone shares in it. The power of God is limitless, and being always maximal, it offers everything to every call from anyone. There is no order of difficulty here. A call for help is given help. The only judgment involved is the Holy Spirit's one division into two categories, one of love and the other the call for love. You cannot safely make this division, for you are much too confused either to recognize love or to believe that everything else is nothing but a call for love. You're too bound to form and not to content. What you consider content is not content at all. It is merely form and nothing else. For you do not respond to what a brother really offers you, but only to the particular perception of his offering by which the ego judges it. The ego is incapable of understanding content and is totally unconcerned with it. To the ego, if the form is acceptable, the content must be. Otherwise, it will attack the form. If you believe you understand something of the dynamics of the ego, let me assure you that you understand nothing of it. For of yourself, you could not understand it. The study of the ego is not the study of the mind. In fact, the ego enjoys studying itself and thoroughly approves the undertakings of students who would analyze it, thus approving its importance. Yet they but study form with meaningless content. For the teacher is senseless, though careful to conceal this fact behind impressive sounding words, but which lack any consistent sense when they're put together. This is characteristic of the ego's judgments. Separately, they seem to hold, but put them together and the system of thought that arises from joining them is incoherent and utterly chaotic. For form is not enough for meaning, and the underlying lack of content makes a cohesive system impossible. Separation, therefore, remains the ego's chosen condition, for no one alone can judge the ego truly. Yet when two or more join together in searching for truth, the ego can no longer defend its lack of content. The fact of union tells them it is not true. It is impossible to remember God in secret and alone, for remembering him means you are not alone and are willing to remember it. Take no thought for yourself, for no thought you hold is for yourself. If you would remember your Father, let the Holy Spirit order your thoughts and give only the answer with which he answers you. Everyone seeks for love as you do, but knows it not unless he joins with you in seeking it. If you undertake the search together, you bring with you a light so powerful that what you see is given meaning. The lonely journey fails because it has excluded what it would find. As God communicates to the Holy Spirit in you, so does the Holy Spirit translate his communications through you, so you can understand them. God has no secret communications, for everything of him is perfectly open and freely accessible to all, being for all. Nothing lives in secret, and what you would hide from the Holy Spirit is nothing. Every interpretation you would lay upon a brother is senseless. Let the Holy Spirit show him to you and teach you both his love and his call for love. Neither his mind nor yours holds more than these two orders of thought. The miracle is the recognition that this is true. Where there is love, your brother must give it to you because of what it is. But where there is a call for love, you must give it because of what you are. Earlier, I said this course will teach you how to remember what you are, restoring to you your identity. We have already learned that this identity is shared. The miracle becomes the means of sharing it. By supplying your identity wherever it is not recognized, you will recognize it. And God himself, who wills to be with his Son forever, will bless each recognition of his Son with all the love he holds for him. Nor will the power of all his love be absent from any miracle you offer to his son. How then can there be any order of difficulty among them? As I was reading that, I was thinking about the movie The Matrix. I just rewatched the last final episode of that movie, not episode, but the last remaking of it, or the last part of it. I think the first time I watched it, I didn't really watch it. I mean, I was watching it and everything was unfolding so fast that I didn't grasp all of the different meanings and the minutiae. But when I was watching it over the last couple of days and reading this, it's so funny how you can see the similarities, like of living in the matrix, being in the illusion. And then once you see it for what it is, it's like you can just snap your fingers and change it because of its nothingness. You realize its meaninglessness. And then the second part of this, which we just read about how you can't do it alone, right? You have to do it with your brother. Reminded me again of this last part of the Matrix where Neo and Trinity had to come together for them to actually find their way to the truth. And I thought, oh, how interesting that is.
The last one was really profound.
Yeah, it was in so many ways.
It brought together the union, the wholeness of what the Matrix actually was.
Right. But it's so, I see so many similarities with Course in Miracles, right? Just as an analogy.
Of the illusion.
Of the illusion. Yeah.
That's how I see this whole world as being like the Matrix, as being an illusion.
Yeah. and I had to chuckle when Trinity turned around and said, "Shame on you for using children."
Yeah.
You know,
who wrote the screenplay for The Matrix? Was it actually someone who studies the course?
I don't know. I've never
The
delved into
brothers,
that.
the last one, the one brother didn't have anything to do with it. It's the brother that became a sister that did the whole thing. And as you could tell by the making of it, with the whole thing with them bringing back the video game, that they didn't want to do another one. It was the company that made them do it. And she says, well, I'm going to write the screenplay and you can't adjust the screenplay. So it was blasting Warner Brothers or whoever it was that made them do another one.
Oh,
And
that's so funny.
yeah, and but yeah, it's the Wachowski, I think is
Wachowskis, yeah.
yeah.
Lily and Lana.
I think they both
By
changed
Joel
their sexes
Silver.
at this point. Huh?
I'm sorry, what'd you say?
They both changed their sexes at this point. That
Oh, interesting.
they were both
They
men
were
when they did
brothers,
the
but
first
now they're
one.
sisters.
Well, the first Matrix was done when they were both brothers. One changed his sex before the second two, and then the other one changed his sex before this last one.
Fascinating. I need to rewatch that whole thing. I so didn't get it.
You
It's just so none
you've
of it.
seen it 3 times, Alicia, and you never got
No,
it.
I have. I haven't seen it 3 times.
Yes, you
I've
have.
seen bits. I may have seen bits and pieces 3 different times, but I really, now that I kind of grasp a little bit of what the concept is behind it, maybe
Right.
I'll get it a little better. Okay. Maybe the fourth time's a charm, Carl.
Yeah. It's just interesting. I love to see the parallels of certain, books or movies, of things that we're reading in A Course in Miracles. It's like get those little like aha moments, like, oh, that's
That's what they're.
yeah.
And I'll bet you they did study the course. A lot of people, of course, don't broadcast it. That's where they get the ideas for the movies, but a lot of movies have that type of
Yeah. And, it goes back to all paths lead to God, right? So it doesn't matter if it's the course or something else. The truth is the truth, right? And it's been spoken many times in many different things. It just, Course in Miracles just seems to resonate with me. But I remember when my brother was going through his dark nights of the soul, he had AIDS and he would have these dreams and we'd talk the next day and he'd say, I dreamt about this and blah, blah, blah. And I was like, oh my gosh, I just read that in A Course in Miracles. Now, of course, his friend gave me my Course in Miracles book, but my brother never read Course in Miracles. But he was getting the same truth, but as a download, which was so interesting to me. I'm like, okay, so the truth is a truth. There's no escaping from it.
It's a required class.
That's right. That's right. All right. Well, it is 1:30. Just a reminder, I will not be here next week. I'm going to go visit my daughter in California for Mother's Day and see my granddaughter. And so I'll be there next week. So we'll take a little bit of a pause, but I will be here the week after that.
Have a wonderful trip. And happy
Thank
Mother's
you,
Wonderful.
everyone. Yeah, same to all of you. All right. Have a great week. And
Thank you.
Thank you, Terry.
thank you,
Thank you,
everyone.
Terry.
Thank
Good
you.
to see you all.
Good to see you too. Bye.